So, we've talked a lot about the fact that we are awareness or that we are consciousness, that who and what we really are is deeper than the stories that we tell ourselves or the narratives that we buy into. We talk a lot about how when we really take a deeper look, that we realize that we are so much more than we thought we were. And sometimes we tend to kind of personalize or individualize the fact that we are awareness or being. And sometimes it can actually kind of send us on this ego trip, or it can be something that the mind uses as a power play. And so that's a very subtle thing that the mind likes to do, but we can become aware of that and not let the mind play that game. Now, when we say that we are consciousness, right? Sometimes it's easy to kind of not look too deep into that and to think of it as we are kind of the consciousness generated by the brain, or to kind of link it to consciousness in a sense of psychology or physiologically, that we are conscious, we are awake, right? Our body is alive and therefore we are conscious. But that's not actually the truth of this. We are not humans who are conscious. There's a term, and I think it's Sanskrit, I could be wrong, but the term is Sat-Chit-Ananda, which roughly translates to being, awareness, bliss. And the way you can kind of think of this is Sat, or being, is existence, or beingness, or isness. And that's pretty easy to understand, right? It is just the fact of existence or being, the fact that there is such a thing as isness, the fact that you can see anything, right, is proof that there is existence or sat. Now, that second part, which is chit, the awareness factor, is not something that comes from our brains or something that comes from, our ability to think or whatever. The chit side of it is just the opposite flip side of the sat. They exist in kind of a symbiotic relationship to one another. So sat, or the beingness, right, the existence of everything, requires the chit, or the awareness, to be aware of it. And in the same sense, the chit, right, or the pure awareness, has contents of awareness, or the sat side of it. And so they're really just two sides of the same coin. So there is isness, there is existence, and there is the awareness of the existence. And the awareness exists, and because the awareness exists, it is aware of something. And so us, as human beings or as individuals, we are a part of that sat. We are being, we exist. And the chit side of it, the awareness, is not awareness of the brain or awareness of thought or awareness of the mind, but it is the universal consciousness that creates all of existence. And we as individuals, or we as human beings, are simply transmitters of that universal consciousness or the chit. And so, of course, we get lost in our thoughts, lost in our emotions, lost in our stories, our narratives, our past sufferings, and all of that. But when you sink into deep meditation, or you have a spiritual practice of some kind, or when you're just simply deeply present in the moment, what happens is the identification with that individual self begins to fall away. And what happens is the individual or the human being ends up kind of sinking back into that chit or into that universal consciousness. And so when that happens, it's almost like a death of something. And the death is the identification with the thoughts or the emotions or whatever, the personal story. When that death occurs, we simply reabsorb into that chit, into that universal awareness, that pure awareness that we really are, that we all share. And so, similar to that, when the body itself dies, we don't just simply cease to exist. We simply reabsorb into the fullness of the being or the Sat. We we just become part back into that universal beingness, and that chit, that pure awareness that is that universal global consciousness, it is simply what we fall back into. And so you don't need to wait until your body dies to do this. This happens to you every time you have a pure moment of presence or a pure moment of awareness, free of identification from thought and from emotion. And the result of that pure absorption, is the Ananda or the bliss. Because all of our sufferings, all of our resistance to what is, comes from identification with the mind, identification with thoughts and forms. And thoughts are just another form, even though you can't see it, it is still a form. And when we identify with those forms, because the forms are ever changing, that is when the suffering comes. And so when you're able to dissociate your identification from the forms and into that pure awareness, that's when the Ananda or the bliss is made manifest. And it's always there, but we simply are unable to tap into it when we are identified with other things. And it's, of course, easier said than done. Of course, we all think that we are searching for bliss or searching for happiness or whatever, but the truth is the bliss is already here. It's already present, and we can access it every moment of every day if we simply drop completely into the presence of this moment, of this beingness. And that's when we embody that pure awareness or that chit. And the Ananda is just self evident. So I hope this kind of cleared up a little bit of maybe these terms of consciousness or awareness or being or whatever. I hope it cleared it up for you in a way that makes a little bit more sense. And if you have any questions or maybe further insights, uh, we all see this in a different way. We can all perceive this in a different way, and maybe we have different metaphors or whatever for how to explain this. And if you have one of those, please feel free to leave it in the comments. But I thank you for watching and for listening. And until the next time, take care of yourself, and I will see you later. Bye.